So if you ever saw an orchestra conductor and wondered what all those gestures actually mean, then this video is for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to break down certain types of gestures that conductors do, show you what they're for, show you some examples so that hopefully next time that you see a conductor, it is easier to read what they're doing and it makes a bit more sense to you. Just a couple of disclaimers before we get started. Disclaimer number one is I am not going to cover every single gesture that there is, every single type of communication or, musical aspect that can be communicated that there is. This is what I thought translated the best through video and the examples I could find on the internet. And disclaimer number two, conducting is about a lot more than just gestures. There are a lot of things that happen during rehearsals, the energy, the communication with the orchestra, the musical preparation. So it is a much bigger picture, but this video is about gestures. If you're new here, my name is Anna and I'm an orchestra conductor, and these are kind of the topics or sections that I'm going to cover. So if any of them is, obvious to you or you want to skip around, feel free. So obviously you have your sort of base level gesture, which is all the different conducting patterns that correspond to all the time signatures of music, meaning how music is organized. I will talk about patterns and subdivisions and stuff like that at the very end because it's the nerdiest of it all. So if you're interested, stick around. But I want to move into the first category, which is all the gestures that have to do with articulation, meaning all the gestures that show how notes are meant to be played, how short, how separate from each other, and they mostly relate to kind of all the symbols that you will find in music. You have, for example, this type of gesture where Carlos Kleiber is showing how short and separate he wants those notes to sound. Or on the contrary, you have here Ricardo Muti sort of showing how some notes in the brass should really be sort of tenuto, sustained until the end. But sometimes it's not about adding an extra gesture or gesturing something with the left hand. Sometimes it can be within the pattern that you're conducting, but because you're giving it a certain amount of weight or doing it in a specific way, it also can show this, meaning it's not the what but the how. For example, here we have Abado conducting, in a pattern of 3/4, and he wants the last two notes of this bar to be sort of specially accentuated, and so he gives a lot of weight to this last two beats and obtains that result. And here we have another example with Barenboim where he's showing sort of articulation, how he wants the note to be really short, staccato, with his baton. But this example is a perfect mixture of two things and a segue to the next section, because he's not only showing the articulation he wants to hear, he's also trying to direct the attention there. He's trying to say, I want this melody, which could be considered a sub-melody, to be highlighted. I want it to come out. And this leads me into my sort of favorite category, which is phrasing. All the gestures that the conductors will do to show the phrasing of the music, where the tension should go, where the climax of something is. And this is important because sometimes some musical phrases, how we call them, can be really long. You can have many, many bars of music where something is building and you need for the orchestra to manage the energy in a way that it builds up and it doesn't say burn too quickly and then energetically you have nowhere to go, or the other way around. We have here one very clear example with Barenboim conducting Beethoven, where you can see him do sort of this very long spanning gesture, whereas, the pattern is moving much quicker, the music is moving much quicker, but what he's showing is where the release of that energy, where the release of that phrasing is meant to be going towards. But the master of this, in my opinion, was Carlos Kleiber, who is almost known for showing more of that than anything else, for showing more of the phrasing of the music, of the flow of the music than all the patterns say, which we can see in many, many examples. There is one specific one that I want to show you, which is this passage in Beethoven 4 that is a really, really long passage that is a very sort of slow burn. You need to manage the energy throughout it. Otherwise, it almost becomes not boring, but it loses its sense. And you can see how Cliver is managing the energy of every step of the way to get them from nothing to incrementally more to the climax of the whole phrase. Another big category of musical information you have to give has to do with dynamics, so how loud or how soft. Now you have some very specific gestures that I think are quite sort of a given what they mean. You will see sometimes conductors, if there is one group of instruments that is, sounding too loud in relation to some other melody that should be highlighted, that they will gesture with their hand so that they play softer. Or if they more generally want the music to be sort of, soft and intimate, they might do a gesture like this one to sort of portray, energetically that. On a more sort of general learning conducting rules type of level, if you want something that is soft, you're better off doing smaller gestures. And if you want something that's loud, you're better off doing big gestures. Like this example where you have what is called a subito forte, meaning it is suddenly loud. It's not increasingly, more and more and more. You have something that's soft and then out of nowhere, something loud. And this is achieved the best when you come from a very sort of small looking gesture into a very big one, like with this example with Riccardo Muti. And now I want to sort of go back into the topic of patterns, but I first want to touch on something that has to do with it, which is subdivisions. So sometimes the music might be written in 4/4, so this should be your pattern, but at times that pulse is really slow because the composer wanted that, and you may have a lot of information inside, that a lot of notes, musical things that are very precise or need to be very precise and cannot be communicated with such a slow beat. So what you do in those situations is you subdivide. So you still kind of conduct in 4, but every single beat has a 1 and 1 and. So this gives the musician more of a pulse information to use and hold on to if they have to organize a lot of rhythmical things within. And the last kind of comment I wanted to make that I left until this point, because I think it's kind of nerdy and I hope I can explain this clearly, but you will have all your patterns that they are the way they are. If you have music that is in 4/4, you are sort of meant to conduct it in 4/4. Sometimes you can switch between the pattern that on paper is the one that you should be using and another one that musically might show more of what's going on. So to make it very practical, here we have Mozart's 41 Symphony, and this symphony is written in 4/4, and a lot of the music sounds in 4/4, but there are sections where the music suddenly is written in, say, longer figures. And so instead of feeling like it's in 4/4, it starts feeling like it's in 2. The inner beat is always there. It's just that because the music is written, say, instead of in quarter notes, in half notes, it suddenly sounds like it's in a different pattern. And so a lot of conductors will switch in the middle of a piece such as this one between, say, being in 4/4 and being in 2. And this is what we see here. Okay, so that was my attempt at breaking down some of the most kind of common conducting gestures that you will find. I hope that this helps. Not that, everybody's out there going like, help, I need to understand. But I hope this helps sort of understand a bit more. And of course, there are many, many things I haven't talked about. Of course, there are energetic things, you know, human connection things. So there is a lot more to conducting. Obviously, you know what happens in rehearsals. Everybody has their own personal style, etc. Thanks for watching. If you made it all the way here and you're not subscribed, could I please ask you to subscribe? Because it just helps YouTube understand that some people are interested in this and to put this video in front of those people. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.